Good evening. This is Capital News at 9:30. My name is Yvonne Msemembo. First, the national news. The Vice President, Dr. Mohamed Garib Bilal, has opened a rehabilitated 15.6-kilometer stretch of Mandela Road, which cost more than 46 billion shillings, funded by the European Union. Here are the details.
At the ceremony, Dr. Bilal rebuked acts by some road users which contribute to damage of roads and threaten road safety and improvement, including overloading, oil spillage, and illegal parkings. During the ceremony, attended by representatives of the European Union delegation to Tanzania, Enrico Strampelli, the Minister for Works, Dr. John Magufuli, also rebuked a tendency by some people to construct structures within road reserves.
A project called Backlog Maintenance Program of the Central Corridor was designed with a budget of 42 million euro to cover the maintenance of both the Morogoro-Dodoma stretch and the Mandela. However, due to the underestimation of the cost of the Morogoro-Dodoma road works, it was not possible to fund the Mandela road works, but only a detailed design, which was done in 2003. Therefore, the rehabilitation of the Mandela Road, the project that we are inaugurating today, was postponed to the 9th European Development Fund.
The Japanese government, through its grassroots grant program, has donated education assistance to Tanzania worth more than 4 billion shillings for construction of 31 secondary school classrooms and dormitories. Here's a report. Handing over a girls' dormitory at Nyerere Secondary School in Mwanga District, the Japanese ambassador Masaki Okada said the assistance was extended in the past 5 years, pledging continued Japanese assistance to Tanzania.
We have attached very much importance to the education, as well as the healthcare or water supply in our cooperation with Tanzania. And this is, in fact, the 31st hostel we contributed in this country. And we hope that as a result, many girls in this region will have better chance for education.
It will enable girls using it to have enough time to study because they will not waste time for walking. 2, it will help them not to be tired when they start lessons. 3, it will avoid girls' pregnancies because it will have helped avoiding temptation on the way. 4, it will help them learn to live together, interact and share talents.
Receiving the dormitory, Minister for Agriculture, Food Security and Cooperatives, Professor Jumanne Magembe, said Japan has been supporting many projects in the country, including a large irrigation project of 47,000 hectares in Kilombero District. Republic of Korea Ambassador Yoo-gun Kim says the problem of grand graft in developing countries can be eliminated if legal action will be taken against all suspects, irrespective of their status. Here are the details. During an audience with IPP Executive Chairman Reginald Mengi, the envoy, speaking through experience of his country, said 2 former presidents found guilty were convicted.
It's big corruption. It must be controlled. Otherwise, as you say that the growth rate is so much, but nothing to the people. To prevent such a things, the corruption must be controlled, and no exception. And the people must feel that when I do fault, I will be punished. That things must come into them. Yes, fair. So even in our case, I already said that even former president also accused and punished. Normal people always. So everybody knows that. So corruption is diminishes very rapidly.
On the secrets of his country's major economic development, the Korean ambassador said, although the World Bank says it was behind democracy, better education and free market policy, but he believes the achievements were due to hard work.
The only reason, only in the aspect of economic development, is the hard working. But the Koreans must hard work to live on. But the Tanzanians, for Tanzania, it's not needed. So such a gap is happened after 50 years. But I think now is the time for the Tanzanians to wake up. And I even in many cases, I always say that Tanzanians has every fundamental conditions for development already. So if you work a little bit harder than now, only a little bit harder than now, your progress will be tremendous.
On his part, Mr. Mengi questioned on how Korean economic achievements were benefiting grassroots people and emphasized that statistics of economic growth will be meaningless to ordinary people if they did not benefit them directly.
In many African countries, we talk of economic growth. Yes. And we are very proud of the figures of 7, 8, 9, 10%. Yes. But at the same time, the poor are not feeling that growth. And unless growth can also be seen through the eyes of the poor people, or rather, shall I say, eyes of the ordinary people, then that growth is meaningless to the people, to the masses. That's why I wanted to find out how South Korea has been able to ensure that even the ordinary man in the street feels the impact, the effect of growth. Because 7%, 8%, 9% growth on its own is just a figure. Yes. It must be felt by the people, by the masses.
Tanzania development partners, including UN agencies, have pledged their full support in fighting new HIV infections to ensure the country has an HIV-free generation. Here's more on the report.
The pledge was made by Canadian High Commissioner Robert Tu on behalf of development partners and United Nations Agency for Children UNICEF representative Doroth Rogzad at celebrations to mark World AIDS Day.
Let me conclude by renewing the commitment of the development partners to work with government, civil society, and the private sector towards a Tanzania free of HIV and AIDS. Is this going to be easy? No. Is it possible? Absolutely. The responsibility is with each and every one of us to achieve zero new infections, zero stigma and discrimination, and zero AIDS-related deaths in Tanzania.
We'll work together with government and partners to achieve our shared vision of zero new infections, zero deaths, and zero discrimination in Tanzania, most especially for the elimination of mother-to-child transmission by 2015.
Speaking at the ceremony to mark World AIDS Day held at national level in Shinyanga, the Prime Minister, Mizengo Pinda, also said Tanzania will establish AIDS Trust Fund to bridge declining funds provided by donors to fight the pandemic in the country.
The government has started concerted efforts to protect water resources in Rufiji River Basin, the source of more than 60% of power generation for the national grid. Here's a report. Deputy Permanent Secretary to the Ministry of Water, Bazam Rindoko, says the move follows worsening water situation in the basin due to prolonged drought, environment destruction and massive use of water for economic activities. He was opening a meeting to discuss and give views to improve a preliminary report of experts preparing a special sustainable program for management of water resources in Rufiji Basin. Director of Water Resources, Naomi Lipumo, spoke on the need of sustainable programs for management and use of water resources in line with population growth and water needs for social and economic activities. Conservation stakeholders say increased human activities, environment destruction and climate change were among factors threatening survival of Lake Manyara between Arusha and Manyara regions. Here's more on the story.
The stakeholders, including officials from Manyara National Park, say apart from drying due to prolonged drought, water levels of the lake have been shrinking as a result of sediment. They warn that the lake, which is key for economic activities, will disappear unless extra and concerted efforts are made to salvage it.
Trade Union Congress of Tanzania, TUCTA, has supported a nationwide strike organized by teachers, saying lives of workers in the country continue to deteriorate due to inflation, which does not match with their income. Here are the details. Addressing a news conference, TUCTA Secretary General Nicholas Mgai said workers lived in difficult conditions while the environment was worse at some places of work. Speaking on the strike, Registrar of Independent Trade Unions, Dorothy Wiso, urged teachers to follow all the laid-down procedures for industrial action, otherwise the strike will be declared null and void. A Standard Chartered Bank delegation has made a familiarization tour of IPP electronic media, which include ITV, Radio 1, East Africa Television and radio station, and Capital Television to see their operations and transmissions. Here are the details.
The delegation was met by ITV Radio 1 Managing Director Joyce Mwavile and were taken around to see various units of IPP electronic media, including studios, transmission rooms, production suites and newsrooms. At East Africa Television and Radio Station, the delegation was received by its Managing Director, Regina Mengi, who explained the workings of television and radio operations and their transmissions. At the end of the tour, Standard Chartered Bank Public Relations Manager Anne Kigoira and Manager for Corporate Affairs Junita Mramba paid tribute to the modern technology used by IPP electronic media.
I think I've enjoyed the tour. It's a very impressive facilities. I think the company has spent a lot of money and invested heavily because some of the equipment is very modern. I was very impressed by the robotic cameras, the beautiful studios. I think this is a great outfit.
And that's the end of the national news. The African news is next after the break.